Hello, this is MrChabry, and Reignite the Flames. The Kentucky Typhlosions are back. This time we are doing the PDL Draft League, a draft league that is sponsored by PUCL. And with this draft league, it's color-based. You needed a Pokemon of each of the colors, and each battle pool, you are selected a specific color that has to be represented for each battle. So the idea with that is we're going to kind of go through our Pokemon here. We'll also look at what they do best. And let me go ahead and get the first one started here. Hold on, there we go. All right. So, starting off, here's the actual team. We'll go through each Pokemon. The first Pokemon that we have here is going to be our red representative, and that is going to be Hisuian Electrode. Now, this wasn't the first Pokemon I drafted. We'll kind of talk about kind of the thought process for my draft. But with Electrode here, what I really was looking for was something fast. Something fast and something that can hit water types pretty hard. Because at this point in the draft, I didn't have anything really good for water. So choosing Electrode not only gave me a good grass type, but a good electric type. And that gives us that water resist that I really needed. Plus, it gives me really fast speed. My main thing with this one is I think this would be a good pivot support because of Volt Switch. And as you look at my team, you're going to see that pivoting is kind of the big thing with my team, trying to maintain momentum and then punish the opponent for switching out or anything like that. But if we look at some of the suggested offerings, yeah, so we got a fast pivot, also a fast utility. I like the idea of setting up screens with this. Mainly reflect, because as we go through this, you'll see that my team has a little bit more special defense. But this will actually help out in a lot of terms that physical defense side that I needed help with. But yeah, this thing gives me very fast speed. Everything else, it's kind of mediocre-wise. But with this, its main job is to get out there, set up defensive screens, pivot out, and try to bring in something that is a bigger threat. So this is my red Pokemon. For my blue pick, we picked Primarina. So with Primarina, it gives me a water type. I really think water type is a key typing that you need. Also fairy type, which is really strong too. So water fairy, a nice combination. And that gives you an immunity on Dragon, which you're going to see a lot of Dragons in this draft league. But you also have a lot of common resistances here, like Dark, Fighting, Fire, and then you'll see other water types pop up here. And this also gives me good special defense, good special attack as well. And it gives me a slow pivoter. Whereas Electrode is a fast pivot, this is more meant to be a slow with that move Flip Turn. And I really think Flip Turn would be a really nice asset to this specific Pokemon. So I can jump in, Flip Turn out, and then bring in something that is actually going to be more of a threat. Also like the idea of putting Calm Mind on this thing and Substitute. So that can help me set up for a future sweep. Encore is also really nice. That would help me set up. And then it has really good coverage, like Psychic, Energy Ball, Psychic Noise, Ice Beam, and Shadow Ball. So, really strong Pokemon here. I really like Primarina. At this point, I did really need a water type, and this not only gave me a water type, but a good fairy type at that. So, it helps me with two very common typings that you really need. Water Fairy. The next Pokemon is our yellow pick, which is Typhlosion. And not only is it Typhlosion, it's Hisuian Typhlosion, making its first appearance on the Kentucky Typhlosions team. So with Hisuian Typhlosion, you trade off some of that speed for special attack. And I think, honestly, that's a good trade. Because normal Typhlosion, you know, its speed is better, but it's not enough that it's going to actually outspeed a lot. So, boosting that special attack is big. Plus, you know, you don't really need as much HP because you're really focusing in on that special attack with this thing. And I love the fact that it gets ghost typing. So that gives you such good resistances, as you see. You have so many good resistances. It gives you 2 immunities, fighting and normal. I would prefer Flash Fire, but Frisk can actually come in handy too. I think I would most likely run it with Blaze though. And that's going to come in handy because what I'm mostly going to do with this thing is try to use it for the sweepage, you know, for sweeping time. So this thing gets Eruption, which is a key move, but also Fire Blast will also help out in cases where I've taken chip damage. Shadow Ball is also good. Infernal Parade, I think, would do decent because that's a move that gets a boost if your opponent is burnt. And it also has a chance to burn, plus, you know, running something like Fire Blast. I can even throw Will-O-Wisp on this thing, and that could actually come in handy too. It also gets Calm Mind, which I didn't realize. But that's actually a really big boost. Its coverage options are kind of mediocre a little bit. But I think Shadow Ball and, you know, Eruption is going to be able to pick off all those opponents that we face. And not only do we have Hisuian Typhlosion, but with this Draft League, we get a certain allocation of points for naming our Terra Captains. And Typhlosion is one of my Terra Captains. This thing, you know, can run like Terra types that would help it out. This thing suggests fighting, but I think Fire, if we go out with Eruption and then use a Fire Terra, that would destroy so many things. The same thing with Ghost. If I throw Ghost Terra, that Shadow Ball is going to be doing that much more damage. And even Infernal Parade, if I can get some burns across the field. I do think Fighting could come in handy too, because I don't really have anything Fighting type. And, you know, having a Fighting type Terra prevents us from taking a lot of damage from, say, a Sucker Punch. So I think that would be really good. I could even see Dark as a defensive Terra. But my main thing with this thing is try to take advantage of that speed, take advantage of that special attack, Scarf it maybe, Calm Mind it, whatever I can to try to get a sweepage going with this thing. And this is my special attacking sweeper. Next up, this is going to be kind of the key pivoter of my team. And this one cost me the most out of all the Pokemon that I drafted. This one had the highest price tag. And as you see, it makes sense because it's very fast. It hits hard on both attack and special attack. And having only flying type instead of, you know, something like flying normal, that's actually pretty cool. Because that gives me a resistance in fighting. I lose my immunity to Ghost, but that's okay. I'd rather resist fighting. So with this thing, you can see here, this is a high price one. And that's, of course, it's got a high speed stat. It's very useful utilitarian. Not only is it good as an offensive Pokemon, but you can also run it as a utilitarian Pokemon. I think that's going to be my main thing because of that Regenerator ability. I can switch out and keep momentum. And the main things I want to throw on this thing, of course, you could do Nasty Plot if you want, or Bulk Up. I really like the idea of throwing Tailwind on this to have some speed control. And then U-turn for pivoting. And this would be a fast pivoter, so I can send it out there and then quickly pivot out and bring in something that can either tank a hit or something that can threaten the opponent. So I really like this Pokemon. I think this is going to be, like, in a lot of cases, probably like an MVP type Pokemon. I also like the idea of using it as a defogger. I do have other hazard controls. As we go through here, you'll see that. But this is my green pick. And really, I'm really pleased with this pick right here. The next pick was our black pick. And this is a Pokemon I don't think I've really used very often. So I think using this would kind of give me some much needed experience with kind of using, you know, this Pokemon, and that is going to be Toedscruel. Not Tentacruel, but Toedscruel. At this point during the draft, I noticed I kind of had a weakness to electric, so having a ground type really helps with that. It kind of, you know, type-wise struggles because of its combination, but I like the utility that this thing can bring. It's pretty quick on its feet, 100 speed, good special defense, and the Mycelium Might, it makes it where the status moves that it has will go last, but it ignores the ability. So if I went for, let's say I go for Spore on a Pokemon that, you know, its ability normally prevents sleep, it's going to sleep. So anything like that. And I do like the idea of running Spore on this thing because it does have access to Spore. It doesn't even have a Draft League analysis, which is interesting. But yeah, this gives me a Rapid Spinner too, which is good. It gives me some Spike support, even Toxic support. I like the idea of Giga Drain on this thing, maybe Earth Power for coverage, Knockoff. The main thing with this is just to send it out there and try to slow down the opponent with, say, Spore or something like that. So I think this is an awesome Pokemon right here. I really like the idea of using this. It gives me another Grass type too, but I'm okay with having a little bit of extra Grass types. That will help me out with, you know, dealing with water types. And, you know, Typhlosion really appreciates having multiple Pokemon there that can help deal with those water types. So I think Toedscruel is going to be pretty nice. Next up is our go-to dragon for our team. That's going to be Reingnite. Now, this has probably been, aside with Typhlosion, one of the most used Pokemon on the Kentucky Typhlosions. And that's going to be Reingnite here. It's fast. It gives me a strong physical attacker, which is something that I really appreciate. Not only that, I get Dragon Dance. I can throw Multi-Scale and, you know, ensure that I get a Dragon Dance. Plus, you also get a lot of good options with it. You know, you've got decent special attack. You got decent bulk. And you got good moves like Dragon Claw or Outrage. You can even throw Scale Shot on this thing. Hurricane if you want a special attacking set. Agility can come in handy too. I like the idea of Substitute, even though I'm not going to probably use Substitute that much. You could throw Roost on it, but I like the coverage. Just look at this entire thing of coverage. Extreme Speed, Earthquake, Iron Head, Thunder Punch, Fire Punch, Stone Edge, Rock Slide, Ice Spinner, Aqua Tail, Waterfall, Low Kick, Blizzard, Ice Beam, Fire Blast. And the list goes on and on and on. It's an awesome Pokemon. I've used it on so many of my Kentucky Typhlosion teams. And I think it's going to be a key Pokemon through this season of PDL. Really love this thing. The next Pokemon, Reingnite, of course, was considered brown. And also needed a purple Pokemon. And this counts as purple. I know Reingnite looks orange. In the Pokedex, it's listed as brown. This looks pink, listed as purple. I guess you could say that's on the edge of pink and purple. But Espeon gives me multiple things. It gives me a Special Sweeper, which, you know, other than Typhlosion, it's good to have, like, multiple options on that. It gives me some more hazard control with Magic Bounce. I can throw this out there and bounce back the hazards that are being set up on my side of the field. It gives me a Setup Sweeper. I can Calm Mind with this thing. So, and it also gives me another good Terra Pokemon. This is my second Terra Captain. So, in battles where I don't feel that Typhlosion would be the pick, I would choose this thing to be my Terra Captain instead. And you do have, like, Fairy. I feel like Fairy's going to be the most most common with this, but you can also do things like Steel for, you know, poison types, even Ghosts. But I think Fairy actually makes the most sense. And, you know, you could do something like a bulky Setup Sweeper. Calm Mind with stored power. Morning Sun and Drain Kiss. I like the idea of that. You can do something more offensive, which is what I feel like I would probably do. But yeah, I do like the idea of Espeon here. And with this draft league, you can use Baton Pass as long as you're not passing a stat boost. So I think this thing also does get Baton Passed, and I can use it as, say, another pivot Pokemon. Send it out on a Pokemon trying to set up rocks, and then use Baton Pass to pivot it out into something that can threaten that Pokemon without losing any momentum. So Espeon, I feel like, is going to be another solid pick. Now, when it comes to my gray Pokemon pick, and this was one that I picked pretty early on, too, because looking at my team, I needed some more options at getting rid of hazards. And, well, Iron Treads here fits that bill pretty well. Not only that, it gives me a really good physical defensive Pokemon. It gives me ground, another ground type for electric. It gives me steel. Look at that list of resistances. This thing is going to be a key player in a lot of battles. Plus, it gives me another pivot because it learns the move Volt Switch. So you can throw in knockoff Volt Switch on this thing. You can use it for hazard controls with Rapid Spin. You can even put Stealth Rocks on it. You can use it as a sweeper, a physical sweeper, which I think that could be fun. Using this, sending it out there, I could use Electric Terrain setup on Electrode. I think it gets a move where you can set up Electric Terrain. And then send this out, or I can just use a Booster Energy and, you know, try to get a sweep. Plus, Rapid Spin will give me a boost in speed too. And, you know, you get Iron Head and Earthquake, which is a really nice combination. And you get such good coverage options like Zen Headbutt, Ice Spinner, Stone Edge, Supercell Slam. So you get some decent options that you can run with this. And that gives me a pretty fast utility Pokemon that can also be a sweeper. Can be my bulky Pokemon that takes the physical hits. It just does a lot of things very nicely, and I like that. Alright, so we also were able, in this draft league, to use Mega Pokemon. And out of all the Pokemon that I've used in Kentucky Typhlosions, one Mega Pokemon stood out for this draft league and my team makeup at the time, and that's going to be Mega Absol. So that gives me a Dark type, which is really nice. That gives me Sucker Punch, which can actually come in handy. It gives me a Swords Dancing Pokemon that, look at this attack stat, 150 with Swords Dance. That is through the roof. So I think this is going to be a very, really good key player. Plus, we've got that 115 special attack. So we can actually throw special moves on this thing and just rip and tear. Our opponent might send in a physical wall. Not so fast. We're going to hit you with a flamethrower, with a dark pulse, whatever we need to do as much damage as we can. So this thing is also a really fast Pokemon too. And it also gives me some hazard control with Magic Bounce. So on top of this thing being a physical sweeper, it also plays the part of hazards. So I really like the idea of that. I've used this thing before, and it's always seemed to be one of my MVPs in that season that I used it. So I think bringing it in on this team during the for this PDL season is a great choice. Not only that, it was pretty cheap for a Mega Pokemon. All the others were like around 10 points or higher. This was an 8-point Mega. I'm not passing that up because it gives me a Mega, and it gives me a really good Mega Pokemon. I feel like a lot of people sleep on this thing. It's really good. I mean, it is frail, but if you get a Swords Dance with Sucker Punch, that frailty is not going to matter as much. Next up, we've got our other pivoter, and that's going to be Slowking. Now, Slowking is also a really good physically defensive or especially defensive Pokemon. It has decent bulk. Regenerator is going to be really great, so I'm going to go ahead and, you know, be able to use this as a pivot Pokemon too. It is slow, so it's going to be a slow pivot Pokemon. And I like the move Chilly Reception because that sets up snow and then you switch out. And say I put coverage options, say I put Blizzard on Primarina, on Dragonite, or even Mega Absol. Well, those Blizzards are going to be 100% accurate. They're not going to miss with the snow falling. So that actually helps out in those too. Plus, with this having Regenerator and Tornadus having Regenerator, I could switch around between both of them and heal up my pivots pretty effectively. So, really nice. I like the typing too. It gives you a fighting resist, fairy, grass, and poison resist. I just gotta watch out for dark, ghost, and ground, which, of course, I've got things that can handle those Pokemon pretty decently. So yeah, this is actually a really strong Pokemon. I also like the idea of, you know, having it for support. Like, I can put Thunder Wave to slow down fast-moving Pokemon. Toxic can be pretty useful, and, you know, this being a poison type, Toxic always hits. And, you know, it gets really good coverage, like Flamethrower, Ice Beam. You know, of course, Psychic or Psychic Noise could come in handy, but Sludge Bomb for the extra boost of damage. Assault Vest, which is going to boost up that special defense through the roof. And this one does have a draft analysis. So yeah, and you can also run things like Trick, Yawn, Toxic Spikes. This gives me some Toxic Spikes. I like the idea of Slack Off. I don't think I'll need it, but it'll be there. I can put a Trick Room on it. Say I can counteract the opponent's Trick Room. I could do that, and that would be pretty good. Look at this coverage. It's things like Grass Knot, Hydro Pump, Power Gem, Earthquake. I don't see Earthquake being that useful, but Scald could be useful. I could see that being useful. So yeah, this is actually a really strong pick. And I like the idea of being able to use it as a pivot alongside Tornadus. Those are my pink pick. Absol was white pick. And then my last Pokemon. So at the end of this, if you had any points left, you could draft up to 2 extra Pokemon. I had points left. But as I looked through the list of Pokemon, there's only one that stood out to me. And if I picked this one, I only would have enough points for 1 extra Pokemon. But looking at this Pokemon, it just really spoke to me in a way that, okay, this thing is going to be a great asset to the team. It's going to be really strong. It's going to be able to help us with some of our typing. And that's going to be Cradily here. So this thing gets Storm Drain, which gives us a water immunity, which is nice. It also gives us another electric resist, which, you know, looking at some of my Pokemon, it really could use that. And this thing, it has higher special defense, but you can run it more defensive if you want. It is a slower Pokemon. And this thing also, can't see it here, but this thing also gives us a nice Stealth Rocker, Toxic support if we need it, Recover. So, I mean, it doesn't have Regenerator, but you can do something like that. Other moves that it has, which are really decent. I like the idea of Giga Drain, just to get some more passive healing, or not really passive healing. Leech Seed is that passive healing. And I think Leech Seed is going to actually be really strong with this Pokemon. I like the idea of throwing Leech Seed on it, and, you know, switching out into my Pivoter, pivoting around, and kind of chipping away at the opponent. So Cradily also gives us a really strong Pokemon in that regard. I like the idea of the water immunity, because that's going to help us out, especially with our Typhlosion here, being able to, you know, weaken those water types, and that's where Grass comes in here, you know. If I can weaken down those water types, then Typhlosion going for Eruption is going to be even more effective. So that's the main thing with that Pokemon. Here is our Kentucky Typhlosion team. What do you think about this team? Which Pokemon on this team would you say are going to be the MVPs of the season? If you like this, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. I will see you in the next Pokemon video. Eruptions.